Half-Life 2. It's 20 years old right now. In fact, looking at my Steam, I bought my copy about 19 years, 11 months, and 3 weeks ago. So, of course, this was recently, made free again. Valve has been making continuous updates. Recently released a commentary. And if you play through the commentary, you see they talk a lot about their performance budget. But of course, we don't know that anymore. If you play on a modern PC, even on ultra high with all the enhancements they've made since, you can run it on a potato. But that was not the case back in the day. This was a high performance game back in the day. It was pretty demanding. And the minimum requirements say, more or less, I've seen different versions, but between 1.2 and 1.8 gigahertz processor as a minimum, DirectX 7 video card minimum. Well, what happened to try to run it on just that? How's that going to work? Okay, so I wanted to see how Half-Life 2 would run. Not on one of the cool setups that people had in the day, not on, say, a top-of-the-line system, but instead a really boring average system that someone would have actually had back in the day. De facto, this is about the minimum setting for Half-Life 2, but it's supposed to run on these settings. How well it runs, I don't know. So this is a Dull Dimension 4300. It has a Pentium 4 1.5 gigahertz, 256 megabytes of RAM. It has a sound card, which would have been very common back in the day. The motherboard does have integrated sound, but a sound card is quite useful. It's actually a real Sound Blaster Live SB0220, which was an OEM, but it has a real EMU 1K, I believe, chip. So it can do hardware EAX, would have been very normal back in the day. Video card is a card that people wouldn't necessarily have back in the day, but is very similar to what people would have had, which is a Quadro XGL 380, essentially a GeForce MX 440 with 128-bit memory bus. A perfectly fine card, not great, but fine. And you can see our nice clean Windows installation here. One other thing, of course, I forgot to mention, but we are using, is a hard drive. Back in the day, you wouldn't have been using a flash drive, really. They were expensive and rare. So, a little more info on it. This is CPU-Z. You can see it loading up slowly. And here's some noise in the background. Pentium 4, socket 478. Running at about that speed. Main board is a Dell, running at AGP 4.0. Memory, 256 megs of SD RAM. This isn't even DDR. Graphics, we'll look at GPU-Z for that. And open up my documents. I'm not going to load in Legacy Update, I don't think, on this machine, but it does have it. Looking at GPU-Z, some really old configuration going on here. Yep, Quadro 4 XGL. On 150 nanometer process, 2 ROPs, 2 TMUs running at AGP4. It's a DirectX 7 card, 64 megabytes of DDR, and a 128-bit memory bus. It's actually important here. A lot of these cards, if it's ever had only 64, if they were cheaper, that could be a real problem. So obviously, we can't run Half-Life 2 the way you showed off of Steam. I actually checked my Steam account. I have owned Half-Life 2 for 20 years this month. And because I own that, and indeed I own a couple of other versions of it, I feel reasonably okay installing this. This is the day one installer. This is not sanctioned by Valve, obviously, or anything like that, but here it is. And we'll install Half-Life 1 source and Counter-Strike as well as Half-Life 2. And let's get started. Okay. We are loaded. It does not look great, but it is loading. Let's see what we're at. We're at video, 64x480, full screen, audio. Okay. I think this is set to use the system's internal drivers. Let's see. Advanced video, medium, low, shader detail, low. Okay, simple reflections. Oh, let's hope that it's set it for us correctly. Keyboard. I always reverse for mouse. I know that's lame, but I do. I'm playing easy. This is really a demonstration. This is how it would have worked back in the day. Let's do a new game. Nothing else available yet. So let's start from the beginning. All right. This is a real 2004 experience right here. Well, we all know that one.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. To imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until, well, let's just say your hour has come again.
Okay.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
No. If this playable, I think this was playable to us back in the day. Nowadays we'd have laughed at this, but it works.
And wine.
So funny, if you played this game more recently of all the models on Super High and Valve's latest edition, which I did, this is so different. It's kind of funny. It's the same game. You can see the garbage cans coming in and out as you get closer, the way to get performance a little better. Yeah. So funny, you can look at the most recent build of Half-Life and say it looks almost modern. But of course, that's not quite what you would have seen back in the day. Maybe we'll do another video. I do have another system, which is high-end of sorts system from the era, to see this game playing at what would have been realistic, but still... It's Half-Life 2. We've seen it. We've seen it before, but it's different. Remember, this is 640 by 480. And so this is, I don't know if this is quite as low as Half-Life 2 goes, but
I got a standard relocation coupon just like everybody else.
About that beer I owed you. It's me, Gordon. Barney from Black Mesa. Sorry for the scare. I had to put on a show for the cameras. I've been working undercover with civil protection. I can't take too long or they'll get suspicious. I'm way behind on my beating quota. Yes, Barney, what is it? I'm in the middle of a critical test. Sorry, Doc, but look who's here. Great Scott. Gordon Freeman. I expected more warning. Yeah, you and me both, Doc. He was about to board the express to
you know,
Well, Barney,
it really does. It's the same game, but this feels like 2004. If you play the most recent edition, it's still dated to be sure, but this version, yeah. I mean, pretty sure this is how I actually played it. Not 100% sure. The card on this is not bad for the era, but by 2005, 2004, it was not great either.
before you blow my cover. Keep going till you're in the plaza. I'll meet up with you later.
Yeah.
We've been helping people escape the city on foot. It's a dangerous route to my father's lab, through the old canals. But today, we're finally on the verge of having a better way. I'll buy you a drink.
So yeah, this is how it used to look.
Oh, and by the way, nice to finally meet you.
Watching all those videos where we talk about for performance budget all the time, you start to realize this is the sort of computer that Valve was so concerned about making this game work on. And you know what? It makes sense. This PC is mostly parts from 2001, 2002. It was not that old of a computer when Half-Life 2 came out. Certainly it was not brand new, but new enough. I mean, it just wasn't reasonable to expect someone to buy a new computer every couple of years. And even if some people did, there'd be an assumption that you didn't want to make a game that was just a tech demo. You want a game that would actually run on a middle-of-the-road computer like this. Really the biggest shock, and you only see, and I'll be honest with you, I lived through this and I kind of forgotten how long those loading times are. They were really, if you play nowadays, it's a second or three at most. Back to normal, computer moves on. Not so off a hard drive, which some of you might be saying, yeah, duh. But those load times are real. Interesting to really experience them again. Remember that those load times used to be 10, 15 seconds. There used to be stuttering, hitching, and we just accepted it. And even so, this was an amazing experience. And there's all the little stuff, like stuff popping in and out. There's all the various things Valve did to make the game work at scale, but it runs. It looks like it looks its age, but that's okay.
Certainly not. Never fear, Gordon. She's de-beaked and completely harmless. The worst you might do is attempt to couple with your head.
That's what we used to accept.
Get that thing away from me. Here, my pet. Up, up. No, not up there. No, no. Careful, Lamar. Those are great friends.
That's one of the funny things about this game. All the computers dated back to when this game came out. all of these CRTs, towers, but that's, that's what they were thinking of. Even this monitor is actually a little bit newer from the game, or from around then. So, final thoughts. It's perfectly playable. And I'm not sure, does it look good by modern standards? Of course not. But, this was still amazing at the time. And I don't think we were all, that it's all held up quite as well as we say it has, but it works. And this is what we played. Like, if you want to say, oh, people were playing Half-Life in 2000, Half-Life 2 in 2004, what it looked like, it could go faster. If you had like a Radeon, 9700, yes, you could run it on. You could probably run it on high, honestly, on bad. It was a well optimized game. But even if you didn't, there were ways to do it. Well, I missed my train. All right. It is what it is. So this is Half-Life, circa 2004. This is how it would have looked. And, this is where the legend comes from. This sort of janky, weird, polygonal mess. Let's do an explosion and see what that's a frame rate. About what you'd expect. Frame rate is not like that, but can handle it. It's been interesting to see. We have all these memories of games, but what do we really remember? Remember how it used to look, or how it actually, how it used to actually look, or a sort of maxed out version that no one could actually play back in the day? And the answer is, frankly, we still remember a maxed out version. Even though that's, a selective memory. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed this little slice. Maybe I'm going to try next on a period-appropriate high-end computer and see how it runs.